Overcoming Myths and Objections. My building has an Energy Star label. You know, the Energy Star label is a wonderful thing. In fact, I'm proud to say that I was actually involved with the Environmental Protection Agency in the U.S. when they originally conceived of, tested, and deployed the Energy Star buildings label. And in fact, I was the person who actually recruited 4 of the first 7 buildings ever to receive the Energy Star benchmarking exercise, including landmark buildings like the Sears Tower and the Empire State Building. My theory at the time, and we'll talk about this under another lesson in Selling in 6, was that if you get the big dogs to sign up for what was then a very, very new benchmarking system, the little dogs would quickly follow. And so I got permission from the government to say, hello, this is Mark Jewell calling on behalf of the White House. May I speak to your general manager, please? And I'm proud to say that it never took more than 2 minutes for the general manager of even a very large building to come to the phone when his secretary said that the White House was on the phone. And it never actually took more than 5 minutes subsequent to their coming to the phone to convince them to participate in this landmark unveiling of the benchmarking tool. And actually, we did a ribbon cutting ceremony in Times Square on Earth Day back in the late 90s. And that was the event that kicked off this Energy Star benchmarking program. Bottom line, though, the Energy Star benchmarking, you say, well, what does the benchmarking really tell us? Okay. How recently was the building benchmarked? A lot of people say, oh, yeah, I benchmarked the building, and they didn't benchmark it for 10 years. I mean, the tool's been around since the late 90s. Secondly, what was the score? Okay. Thirdly, were you aware that the U.S. EPA recently changed the baselines for its ratings, which implies that some of the buildings are going to slide down the curve because now they're using a more up-to-date sample set to compare you to? Were you aware that there's a large difference in energy use between, say, a score of 75 and a score of 99? As you may already know, the Energy Star score, the Energy Star label rather, is given to buildings that demonstrate that they're in the top quartile of most efficient buildings when a bunch of normalizing factors are taken into account. Things like operating hours, occupant density, the density of personal computers, the presence of data centers, the actual square footage of the building, etc. But you know what? If you take a look at the numbers, the kBTU per square feet, or per square foot rather, and what that normalized number is for 75 versus 99 on the scoring system, you'll see that there's a tremendous potential for improvement between 75 and 99. So even if you did get a label, if you got a label because you were at the 75th, 76th percentile, think of all the improvements you could still bolt into the building and get your score even higher and enjoy all the other concomitant benefits of higher efficiency in that building. Was the building's benchmarking exercise verified by a professional engineer or other licensed building professional, like an architect? A lot of people say, oh, yeah, I benchmarked my building. I got a score of 100. I said, really? Did you apply for the label? Nah, we don't want to go through all that. It costs a little bit of money to have the PE stamp the application. So we decided just to do it ourselves. Well, you know what? I'm not exactly sure that that was an accurate score, because when one of these licensed building professionals goes and puts his stamp on the application, they actually go through and they check to make sure the software was used properly, that all the meters were counted, that the square footage and occupant density and operating hours were properly represented. If you just had your secretary do it, I don't know, maybe it's not an accurate benchmark.